Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Happy Tuesday to you. Welcome back. Yeah, sorry about the little blurb, trying to be a little funny, but yeah, shit is pretty fucked up right now. I mean, I got up this morning and kind of thinking about what I want to talk about on today's show. I try to freestyle it as much as I possibly can. And I can definitely say that I was disappointed. You know, the first thing I read was that the hurricane relief in North Carolina is still going on. No thanks to FEMA. No thanks to our current, political party that's running the show, or trying to run. They're saying they're running the show, but those guys couldn't run fucking tap water. The first thing I read was in North Carolina that they need more body bags. Unreal. More body bags. More body bags while FEMA is still holding back aid while claiming that they're not, still having roadblocks while claiming that they aren't, in the face of the fact that we have all the evidence that they're doing exactly that. We have all the cell phones. We have all of the Starlinks. We have everything. And in a social media world where you can live stream just about anything, anywhere, at any time you want, those fools are going to try to pull the veil over our minds, our eyes. And it's just really sad right now, with Milton, that looks like it's been downgraded to a Category 3 that is going to be bearing down on the Tampa or just slightly north of the Tampa, Florida region. I just don't have any faith that there's going to be any response or preparedness. I mean, we have the FEMA that's supposed to be there for our American citizenry in time of emergencies. They're out of money because they gave it all to illegal aliens. And they're going to turn around and jackboot other citizens when they try to help other citizens getting aid. And it came out now that amongst the 7,000 federal personnel that are now on the ground between the National Guard and the military themselves, they're trying to do what they can. But I'm still going to stand by this and what I said in last night's show. I still really believe in individualism. The government can't do anything. I think there was a saying that was said once, the 6 scariest words that could ever be said is when the government says, "I am here to help you." And or something to that effect. And I think that's very truthful. I don't especially this current regime, I don't believe in them at all. But I do know what I've been seeing and hearing about and reading about is that it's the volunteers that are helping people with meals and clothing and temp housing and there's a cold front coming in right now. In North Carolina, there's a cold front that's well on its way and we're not prepared for that. But the first thing that I read this morning was out of North Carolina, they need more body bags. Well, way to go, FEMA. Way to go, Kamala Harris, and way to go for basically making sure that Lebanon, is going to be taken care of with $385 million while you literally butt fuck your own people. But yeah, so that's kind of how I wanted to start it today. Sorry about the little grim, glum opening, but today's topics is Clueless Kamala and the portrait of the Democrats. All right, let's get going. Happy Tuesday. See you in a minute.
Break 'em on. This is America First Radio. Patriots, get your ears on because we're blowing the speakers out.
Lefty G. It is time for the Lefty G Show. The only show to get you right. Get ready to get right with Lefty. Your voice taking you down Freedom Road. Now, here's your host, Lefty G.
Let's hit the fucking road!
All right, yeah. So that's what I heard this morning. That they need more body bags. So God bless everyone out there. I hope we can right the ship. And again, I still stand by individualism. So, yeah. So, but the thing is, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but Kamala Harris, actually did a real interview with 60 Minutes the other night, where she was fairly put in her place. I gotta give Bill Whitaker a little bit of praise. If you get a chance to go ahead and check out that video, you should. I don't have it ready to be uploaded at this point. I didn't get permission or didn't get a point to get it uploaded here on the show. So, but it's all over the place. It's been highly viewed because Bill Whitaker, who is generally kind of a leftoid, of course it is, big media. But I think right now the emperor doesn't have any clothes, and I think even the immediate tech dogs that used to go after Trump and everyone else, and even before that George W. Bush and all of them, they can't hide it anymore. They can't hide it anymore. And so I think he didn't quite give her the old Trump treatment where they really go after him with a shellacking. But I think let's put it this way. The last time she was banged this hard, it was by Willie Brown. All right, moving on. So Kamala, in her most recent interview that I really picked up on, was really trying to talk about small business. This is one of the main big issues coming into this election that we're right around the corner from. But Kamala was talking about small business. And the thing, like everything else, and that's why, hence I started the show by saying that the first part of the title of the show is Clueless Kamala, is that she has no plan to help small businesses if she wins. God help us if that broad wins. And here we are exactly 27 days out from the election, and she can't tell us her ideas or things she is going to do on her agenda as president, specifically for small businesses. The economy is one of the number one issues in this election, besides the border, right besides the border. And, she doesn't have a plan for that either, by the way. The fucking, border czar doesn't have any idea at all what she's going to do there. And so let that sink in. But going back to the economy and small businesses, she wants to try to give people $2,500, and she thinks that this is going to help them buy a home. This is how idiotic she is. This is only going to increase the cost of all these said homes that people are going to be able to potentially buy with a measly $2,500. This is a real critical point that a lot of people are now talking about. It's becoming more and more prevalent that these little pittance of monies, the $750 for relief money by FEMA, and this $2,500 for people for a home. This is this is pauper's pennies. This isn't going to do anything for anybody. And I think the biggest thing that really astounds me is that even in this interview, she couldn't talk or articulate her real plan. She gave all the same rhetoric about, she's going to make sure the rich pay their fair share when they already do. But, I guess the bigger point that I'm going to try to make is, why won't she go and answer her policy questions or even really get interviewed? I mean, granted, she did go on 60 Minutes, but that's really about it. Look at this, for an example. If you're a person, right? Let's just say you're a person and you want to run for local government. You want to run for your city council or something to that effect, your PTA or something to that effect. You're going to get questioned more than she does. And she's running for fucking president. It's not like, she ran and won the nomination. Let's all be very clear here. She was floated in and put in as the nominee, because the last guy was a demented retard. So she was floated in. She was put in as a nominee. She didn't win a fucking thing. And you cannot become leader of the free world. And remember here, folks, remember this. I'm neither a Republican or Democrat. I'm a constitutionalist that leans heavy conservative who's saying this. This is an American constitutionalist saying this. I'm going to end it with that. Whoever is running for president, you need to answer questions. You need to be free to be questioned on it and what your agenda is and give your plan before the election takes place. And she hasn't done this. And I'm sorry here. Look, okay. Besides the 60 Minutes, I get it. Okay, that's one. Going on The View with those cackling bunch of fucking witches, and this fucking podcast that's called it's like Who's Your Daddy or something like that. And I think she did a little stint on Howard Stern, but nobody gives a fuck about that old guy. And his wig just keeps getting worse and worse. But nobody cares about him either. That's not being open and transparent to the American people, who are really the ones through these reporters in some level or fashion are asking her the questions. And again, I guess she did do the 60-minute interview yesterday, and I got to kind of give, a lot of credit here to Bill Whitaker. But, Camel Toe was questioned by Bill Whitaker pretty vehemently about small businesses, and she choked, and she absolutely choked. He asked her other stuff too, like, do you own a gun? Did you ever shoot it? And, why did she allow triple the number of illegals over the border as borders are? And I got to be honest with you, for a guy that was slightly always leaning left, Bill Whitaker, I thought, did a good job in the mild grilling of Camel Toe Harris. But here's the thing. She choked on it all. She didn't know how to answer anything. She's the border czar, and yet we have illegals coming over like crazy, worst it's ever been in our country. And of course, she just kind of stood there, like King Kong staring at Fay Ray when he asked her about her gun and did she ever shoot it. But back to the point here, Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution states that tax reforms starts in the House. And if you have a tax bill that actually brought the economy up, and when the Republicans passed the tax bill under President Trump, people got raises, if you remember that. And, corporations prospered because they lowered the corporate rate and gave it to the employees. Everyone was making more money in the process. And this dizzy idiot wants to actually harm people who actually want to invest in small businesses. I myself am a small business owner. I'd even call it a micro business at this point. And what I can tell you is this. I'm the first one to work, the last one to leave, and the last one to be paid. And if she adds more regulations, I couldn't have opened up my small business today. I couldn't hire people to be able to earn a living. And this is the challenge she doesn't understand. Kamala has never owned a business. She's never been an entrepreneur. And so with all that said, she doesn't know the punishment that she creates with all of her regulations that harm people to have the capital to invest in their small businesses. It's almost like it's a penalty if you try to be, out on your own. And as a side note, her approval rating with men, specifically Latino and black men, has gone down considerably. And this is really a great indicator for Donald Trump and the momentum going forward right now. And quite frankly, we're in the home stretch. Trump is carrying right around 41% of the Hispanic vote, around 16% of the black vote. And that's unusual and much higher than Republicans before him. But I believe a poll that came out, and I guess I'll say this, this poll that came out, and I will say that I like the integrity of this Gallup poll, but it says that I believe that a poll that doesn't ask who you're voting for is very important because they don't really lead anyone. And that's exactly what this Gallup poll did. And it came out with a poll that asked, voters who they most identified with, the Republicans or the Democrats. And 48% said the Republican Party. And the second question was, who's best to solve problems? Republicans also won that. So, we're looking at a climate much different than we've seen before. And if you correlate that through the past elections, and don't get me wrong, the polls are still, tight across the board. It's a closer race today than where, Joe Biden was or Hillary Clinton was. So if it's a margin of error, typically the Republican, i.e. Trump, gets a little bump because, not everyone answers the questions, who they're voting for, honestly. But, think for a moment, please, that we're here to have the highest election in the land for the highest position in the land. And the Democrat nominee never went out and campaigned with and for the American people. Let that sink in. The Democrat nominee never has campaigned one iota. And she never spent time at the Iowa State Fair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she did. She didn't go to New Hampshire. She didn't go to South Carolina and listen to the people on what their challenges are. She didn't go down to the border states and say, as someone who's the fucking border czar, what has she done to, prevent the destruction of our nation? And it's funny because when you look at different newspaper articles and, online articles, in Massachusetts, Massachusetts, the number one issue is the southern border. In New York, the number one issue is the southern border. It's goofy to me. And all of that is what she was in charge of. And I would say, hey, Kamala, do me a favor. Tell us your economic plan to put the economy back on track. Tell us your foreign policy plan and why we are losing military bases and strategic strongholds around the globe. Why did we have 5 embassies evacuated? Explain that to me, Kamala. Explain that to me. While you were second in command, why did all those things happen? Can you talk about the debacle of Afghanistan if you were the last person to leave the room? How the fuck did the dinks end up with billions and billions of dollars of our weapons? How did we have all of those Gold Star families without any type of respite or answers or anything like that, recompense on losing their children, their soldiers? Can you answer any of that? I don't think she can because she's fucking clueless. We had this violent anti-Israel protest in New York. And I got to be honest with you guys. Listen to this. I mean, we're dealing with 1941 Berlin all over again, where protesters are literally chasing and terrorizing Jewish Americans on our own streets. It's maddening to me. We had a violent home invasion in Dallas by another group of these Venezuelan illegal fucking immigrants, these gang members. Yesterday, they had a home invasion in Dallas. The war in the Middle East has hit one of the largest fever pitches to date. Everywhere we look, things are in shambles. And the fingerprints on it all are the Democrats. Every single last thing that's happening right now. And it's chaos by design. And, the thing is, I think to have this much craziness, you have to be crazy. You have to be the people that are running it. You have to be a little loon. I think it's where we get the expression, the inmates are running the asylum. But with that said, I will say that I believe that even the most maddened state, in a person in their most maddened state, that all people are aware to some level of their own malevolence and malice. I believe that. And I know to use this type of example that I'm about to use is a little beguiling, but please bear with me. There really is a comparative point to be made here, and I kind of wanted to make a little bit of a relaxing ending to the show here tonight, because I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'd recommend anyone to go out and read this book. It's an oldie but a goodie. So the Democrats, right, the liberals, the Democrats today, they remind me of the moral of the story behind the portrait of Dorian Gray. Because I believe the Democrats of yesterday, they started out much like Dorian Gray did in the beginning of the book. They were unaware of their own, corruption. Yeah, they were selfish and they had their own, indignant plans, and they wanted to do things for their own, selfish indignations. But I think overall they were unaware of their own corruption, just like Dorian Gray was in the beginning of the book. Examples like FDR and Kennedy, or even Carter for that matter. I can't believe that guy's still alive. Holy fuck. Peanuts must be really good for you. But I think they were like them. I think Dorian Gray was like those Democrats I just described. I believe that they all at some point had good-natured ideals for the United States at one time. But as the story went on, like the time has gone on here in real life, Democrats, like Dorian Gray, became twisted, and by the time the madness set in, they were Obama. And I think this is what we're seeing right now. And, to kind of take you back to the story, the moral of the portrait of Dorian Gray, by Oscar Wilde, by the way, is the pursuit of beauty and pleasure without regard for morality, which leads to spiritual corruption and eventual downfall. And Wilde later wrote about that book, he said, all excesses as well as all rejection of the truth brings its own punishment. And that's really what we're seeing here with the Dems in this country. Let's all call a spade here. That's exactly what we're seeing. Because if you recall in the book, again, I'm talking about the portrait of Dorian Gray. Dorian's attempt to destroy the painting that reflects his conscience and his soul is fatal. It kills him. And the moral here is that killing the conscience kills the soul and the self. This is what the liberals are trying to do to America. The Dems that have painted a picture of America, this is as false as the timeless curse painting of Dorian Gray himself. And, when they ignore the border with a false veil of humanitarianism, they're using words like migrants over words that are really mean them, like, illegal aliens, like we've talked about on the show. Words matter. All the while, this country is being ravaged by street drugs like fentanyl, the reintroduction of new and old diseases, rampant crime that goes largely unchecked. And that's why I make this comparison. The painting, and of course, if you read the book, the little yellow book that's in the store, you're going to have to read it. I don't want to give it away. But the painting has a profound effect on Dorian, influencing him to immoral behavior. And the liberals of today are not far off from Dorian. Much like the drag queen story hours, or allowing hundreds of thousands of illegal children to be sex trafficked, or or forcing these public schools to teach children as young as 8 that gay sex is natural. I mean, and here's the thing. Natural or not, I don't think that any 8-year-old needs to understand what sexual intercourse is all about. But I digress. And it's funny, as I really started to think more about the novel itself, it explored a lot of other themes, like, say, the supremacy of youth and beauty. Look what liberals want to do. They want to extend adolescence in this country by allowing, debt forgiveness to some fucking weird gender studies major, by forcing you and I to pay the tax on that. That literally that useless degree. We're forcing parents to keep their children, on their insurance and living in their home until, they're 26 years old. And let's think about that for a second. If you go back and you think about a 26-year-old 50 years ago or 60 years ago or 100 years ago, think of a 26-year-old that time. They were well ensconced in their career. They had their own house. They probably had 2 to 3, maybe 4 kids by that time. They were probably paying for some type of a vehicle, horse and buggy or car. They probably had some type of land acquisition. They probably had investments. They probably had all these things. Now we have, these 26-year-olds sitting in their stepdad's basement eating cold meatloaf and smoking cheesecake fucking vapes. And they're wondering why they can't get a job because they don't want to work fast food because it makes their acne break out. But no problem, because they still get forced insurance upon us thanks to, Obama. So they want to extend adolescence, and hence why I use the example that was in the book of the supremacy of youth and beauty. Another point that I make in the book, in comparison, in making a comparison to them and the portrait of Dorian Gray, is the tension that is presented in the book of a person's inner self and social conventions. Think about this. By allowing men to use women's bathrooms or compete in women's sports, forcing sanctuary cities upon us for, disease-ridden illegals who have done nothing but take away our resources and cause danger in the country. All the while forcing all this into legislation while the mass majority of us don't want any of it. Another thing that the book, that I can make a correlation to is the relationship between life and art. A liberal will say that an upside-down cross and a glass full of urine is art. Or, some adolescent boy performing a drag show for a bunch of perverted, sick men is art. But the idea of a Christmas display out in front of a church is somehow evil and unsightly, while they tear down artistic statues representing important points of American history. Dorian Gray, his story ends with him, in a state of madness and shame, stabbing his own portrait, which kills him, and returns the portrait to his original state. Read the book, pick it up. But I don't think liberals will be as gracious as Dorian Gray by self-relinquishing us of themselves and the turmoil that they have caused. It's really up to us in November. Make sure you get out there. See you at the polls. And hey, please don't forget to hit the like button and the bell button to get further videos here for the Lefty G Show. And we will definitely see you back here tomorrow. Peace through strength. Love you guys. Good night.